Hello! Today we're going to make an FK-IK switch chain. A very basic rigging skill that everybody should have. Please disregard my plopping bag that I have on my head. I have curly hair which requires a lot of effort and I like having nice curls. Also please disregard my cat going apeshit in the background. Okay, we are going to begin by duplicating this twice. This is the shoulder joint. We should have two. We can delete everything from the hand down. Actually, let's keep the hand base. Everything under the hand base will be gone. And shoulder pad not necessary either. Hand base, all the fingies will be gone. I'm gonna double check the skinning, didn't get messed up for any reason. Good. Let's select all the joints in one of these chains. Go to display or modify. Where is it? Fine. Let's do search and replace names. Usually there is a command called suffix hierarchy. I don't know why sometimes I find it, sometimes I don't find it. It's okay. We can do it with this tool instead. We're going to search for joint and we're going to replace it with joint underscore FK in our selected. And we're going to delete this number 2. Do the same for this one, but instead of FK, it's going to be IK. Whoop! Delete the number 1. Alright, now we are going to select the FK, the IK, and then the original last. Go to our rigging tab, constraint, parent constraint options, maintain offset equals false. And we're going to do both translate and rotate. And we're going to do the same for all of these joints. First the FK, then the IK, then the original. All the way down the chain. Cool. Now if I move one of them, you'll see that the original will be right in the middle of these 2 extra joint chains that we just made. You'll also notice that if you go into a constraint, you're going to see these weights to the FK and the IK joint, and if you zero one out, like if we zero out all of the FK joint weights, the original should 100% follow the IK chain, because all the FK weights were turned off and only the IK weights are turned on. If we switch this up and turn on all the FK weights and turn off all the IK weights, the opposite should happen. Which it does. Before we create the switch, I'm gonna go ahead and create the rigging setup for both the FK and the IK. So let's do the FK first because it's easier. I'm gonna hide the original and the IK. And we're basically just creating a control curve. We're going to align it to the FK joint by doing a parent constraint. First you select the joint, then you select the curve. Maintain offset equals off. And we're going to do the same thing with the elbow and the hand. Duplicate this, delete these parent constraints, we're not going to use them anymore. This and do this. Now each joint has an FK control. But these FK controls have transforms and we have to get rid of that. I think I have a video on creating curves and how to make them clean, but I'm just gonna use a script that I have to do it for me, and I'm gonna put it in my blog post if you want to use it. This is the script I'm using. It's very simple. It just quickly compensates a curve. And I'm gonna add it to my shelf so I can use it. First I'm gonna call this left shoulder control, left elbow control, left hand control, compensate. So all of the transform got pushed to a group above it and the curve itself is clean. Gonna do it again, do it again. And I'm gonna just quickly change this from control 1 to group clean. Now to make it even nicer, we're going to select these curves, go to our component mode, I think that's what it's called. Select all of the vertex and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. Oop, it's gotta be in object space. So you go to your tool settings, make sure that this is turned on. Rotate it. Make it a little bit bigger. Oop, object space. I'm gonna make this bigger. I'm also gonna move it a little bit. Maybe a little bit. No, I'm just gonna move this one. This one's that shoulder pad hides the control. Okay, good enough. I'm also gonna make these control curves blue because it's the left side. So let's go to the attribute editor. I have one of the curves selected. We're gonna go to object display, drawing overrides, enable overrides, and let's make it blue. Okay, now we are going to parent the group of the hand to the curve of the elbow, and the group of the elbow to the curve of the shoulder. And lastly, we are going to parent constrain the joints to these curves. So first we select the curve, then the joint, constrain, parent. Also note that I have the original and the IK hidden. So right now I'm selecting the FK joint that I made. Hand control, hand joint FK, maintain offset, not necessary, and apply. The same thing with the elbow and the joint and the shoulder and the joint. So now if I move this, all of this moves, everyone's happy. Whee. Now let's hide this real quick. Let's hide the FK chain. Let's make the IK visible. And for the IK, we're gonna go to ring tab skeleton, create IK handle. We're gonna do a rotate planes over, and these options should be fine. Like select the shoulder and then the hand and move it real quick. See if it works. Seems to be working fine. We can see it on the gel because the constraints for the IK are turned off.
Just so we can work on it, let's turn it back on.
Beautiful. Let's go to our IK handle tool again and let's do a single chain solver from the hand to this hand base joint. Cool. Now let's create a square. I'm just gonna do everything circles because I'm too lazy. I'm going to align it to that hand joint. I'm gonna call you left hand IK control. I'm going to compensate you. Call this group. Let's also give these handles a name. This is gonna be left hand IK handle. Actually, let's call it shoulder because it's actually, let's call it arm. And then this one's gonna be called the hand. Cool. And we are going to hide these and parent both of these to the hand control we just made. So now when I move this, everything should follow and it should rotate. Let me quickly shape this control. Cool, now we can do our pole vector. And I believe I already made a tutorial on this. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. But just to go over it very quickly, we're gonna go to our modeling tab, Where is create polygon tool under mesh tools? I'm going to hide the geometry real quick. I'm going to hold V and create a triangle on these joints. Select the middle vertex. I'm gonna go to my normal translate mode. I'm going to translate this like this in V, I guess. Do I want to make this farther out so it doesn't clip with the backpack? Perhaps. Let's do it. Like so. But then it might be too far out. Something like over here is fine. Cool. Let's make another control. Create. Let's hold V and snap it to that vertex. And for the pole vector, I'm gonna make like a star shape. That's usually what I do. I'm also gonna rotate it like so. It's a very easy, quick way to make a pole vector. Let's call it left arm pole vec control. Let's compensate it. Let's make it blue. Delete this, we don't need it anymore. Call it group. Select this and select our arm IK handle, which is hidden. Go to rigging, constraint, pole vector. And if you did everything right, nothing should have moved. Usually if you do a pole vector constraint and something moves, that's because you didn't make the joint chain properly and you're gonna have to redo it. Let's see. Yes. Yes, beautiful. Okay, let's take this an even extra step and make it super fancy. Sometimes animators have trouble finding where the pole vector is because they move the rig everywhere. So one thing that I learned at Amazon was to make a line that connects the pole vector to the elbow so it's easier to find if the animator gets lost. So let's hide the geometry real quick and let's go to create EP curve tool, hold down V, do one control vertex on that elbow joint and the other one here. Now select this, do control vertex. Let's hide the skeleton real quick. Control vertex, we're going to select this control vertex and do deform cluster. Do the same on this end, deform cluster. And I like to name everything because when you have a rig that has a very long hierarchy, things get very confusing. So let's name this left arm pole vec curve, and let's call this left arm pole vec CLS for cluster start. And we're gonna hide all of this. We don't want the animator to select it by accident. Now let's hide the IK joint, and we're going to constrain the start cluster to the original elbow. So let's select the original elbow and then the start cluster and parent constrain. And we're going to constrain the end cluster to this pole vector control. So now you'll notice that I can easily find it if I just follow the line. Very handy trick. We're also going to make this line a template so the animators don't select it. So we're going to go to display, object display, template. Now we're gonna make the switch control, and I'm gonna make a custom curve. So let's go to curve tool, EP curve tool. I'm gonna hold X. We're gonna do something like this. Like a little peak flag thingy. Beautiful. Does it come with history? I'm gonna delete history just for good measure. Delete. I don't think it did anything, but whatever, it made me feel good. Okay. Now we're going to align this to the hand. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Something. Why is it green? Usually when it's green it's because there's more than one thing feeding into it. Paired blend. Bruh. Is it because I have keys? Oh, it's because I had keys. Silly me. Okay, as I was saying, let's align that control I just made to the hand joint. Delete that constraint. Let's call it left FKIK switch control. Let's rotate it. I'm gonna make it move over here. It's also really big. Let's do something like this. Now we're going to compensate it. We are going to constrain that compensate group to the hand. So now whatever we do, it follows. Let's also make it blue. This curve is only going to be used for the switch, so we can just lock and hide all of this, and we're going to add an attribute called IKFK. Let's do an integer. Minimum 0, maximum 1. Because I put IK in front, you could also have typed FKIK. So what this means, usually in my rigs at least, is that FK is going to be 0 and IK is going to be 1. We're going to leave the default to FK. Now we are going to connect this attribute to the weight in those constraints so we can turn them on and off. We can do that by going to Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor. We are going to load our switch control on the left side. To make this cleaner, we can go to left display, shown unkeyable, so we can only see the attributes. On the right side, let's load up all of these constraints. We're going to connect by selecting the FKIK attribute, and right now it's at 0, I think. Yes. So let's connect it to the IK weights. Next, we're gonna go into our node editor, load up our switch control. We're going to create a reverse node by clicking tab in our keyboard, typing reverse, enter, and we're gonna call this left arm reverse. And let's connect the attribute to our input X. And we're going to load up this node on the left side. And we need to see the output, so let's do left display shown unkeyable so we can see the output X and connect output X to the FK weights. So now, if everything works, when FKIK attribute is at 0, it follows the FK controls. If we set it up to IK, it doesn't follow the FK controls anymore, and it should follow the IK control. Perfect. We are also going to connect the attribute to the visibility of these controls. So on the left side, shown unkeyable, we have the control. And on the right side, let's load up our hand IK group and our pull vector group. And we're going to connect IK to visibility. If it's set to IK, the IK is visible. If it's set to FK, it's invisible. And similar to what we did previously, we're going to load up the reverse node again. On the right side, let's load up the shoulder group and connect output to the visibility. So now if it's FK, you can see the FK. If it's IK, you can see the IK. And all of it works very well. Now that we've begun rigging, we're gonna start seeing a bunch of stuff in our hierarchy, and we should probably start cleaning this up as we go. So I'm going to create an empty group. I'm gonna call it extras group pair under Yori rig. I'm gonna put this curve, these clusters under there. And it's gonna give you a warning because clusters have to be under a group of their own. Just to keep things clean, I'm gonna say this is the group. I'm also going to create a group for the control rig. And for now, I'm just gonna put all of this under here. At the end of the process, we're gonna be parenting these groups one under the other. But for now, we can leave them like this. But this is it for today. This Thursday, I'm hoping to release the twist setup, which involves a lot of stuff in the node editor. It's a little fancy and a little bit complicated, but it really takes your rig from amateur to hireable in the industry. So I suggest you watch it. Give me likes, subscribe, buy me a coffee on Ko-Fi, send me jam, share my work in every social outlet because everybody wants to know about rigging. Anyway, peace.